Hit me with your best shot, fire away. Anybody understand that? Yeah, this idea, I thought, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. I can probably do this talk without even preparing. No drama, no boundaries, no separation. I got that covered, right? I don't do drama. Well, you know what? I got to be careful where I place my attention because the universe is really comical, has a great sense of humor, because my entire week was challenged almost every time I opened my eyes or turned around with an opportunity to practice how to be with somebody or something that's trying to hit me with the best shot, firing away. Yeah. We all got normal stuff to deal with, and I've got my normal stuff. And then this week I got to talk to my children's father, whom I haven't spoken with in years. Drama, you think? Both of my children are having things going on in their families, and I got to have little discussions with them, and I'm going, boy, this is an opportunity for me to demonstrate my spiritual mastery, to remember the truth of my divinity, to walk the talk. You know what? It's really easy to get up here and just tell you guys all kinds of stuff. But I want to tell you something. It's not so easy to live it, to walk it in the world, and to remember this, divine walk within our humanity, because stuff just sometimes keeps coming at you. Anybody got anything like that going on? I know you do, because I saw tears while we were listening to Debbie Voltura's song, I Surrender to the Light. I know you've got stuff going on. We all do. And what I know is that when we're in this human condition and we're trying to remember our divinity as often as we can, we have this unshakable bond with this human experience, with this life path that we're on. And guess what? Everything that shows up for us as part of our personal soul's journey and our quest to remember the truth of our being, to remember who we really are within that thing. It just shows up that way for us. We all get our own version. Everybody's version is different. And my job is to see where I get hooked, where I get triggered when these things come into my field of awareness, you see. Where fear shows up, where anger arises, where a resentment starts to bubble under the surface of an experience. Do you know what I'm talking about? One of the biggest lessons I learned this week in all of my discussions with my family, with my former husband, with everybody that I came in contact with that had that edge to it. You know how some things have an edge to it? What I learned is that I need to remember what Pema Chodron says. And that is, I need to know the truth. That no stories are true. Nobody's stories are true. Mine are not true, and everybody else's are not true, because they're all based on perception. And at the same time, they're all true to the person telling them. Isn't that the truth? No story's true, and at the same time, every story is completely true to the person that's holding the perception about it. So my work this week was to have the freedom to choose how to respond, what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. Divine timing is everything. So that I don't cause harm, so that I can let my biggest self show through these experiences, and I'm not going to hurt anybody else in the process. Because what I know, what I've learned in my 68 years on this planet is this: unskillful responses, whether it's in speech or action, degrades and diminishes my relationships with the people that I care about. And so I have to be very cautious of remembering what divine quality do I want to bring when I'm in these experiences. Because when I don't bring the energy of my highest self to whatever is going on, you know what? This is where I create the drama. This is where I put up the boundaries that box the situation in, rather than allowing the situation to just flow. I don't always like the way it flows, let me tell you. But if I add to it, if I add drama to it, it's going to go even more downhill. You know what I'm talking about? So I want to share with you, Glenda talked about Pema Chodron. She's a beautiful Buddhist teacher. She's got a wonderful book called Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Change. And this is what she says about this idea of communicating from a skillful perspective. She says, a mean word or a snide remark, a disdainful or disapproving facial expression, aggressive body language. These are all the ways that we can cause harm. When we slow down enough to become very intimate with how we feel when we're being pushed to the limit, very intimate with the urge to strike out or withdraw, to become a bully or to go numb, we become aware that words and actions can create happiness or suffering. And this is what I know. I create my future, so to speak, with every word that I speak, with every thought that I hold, and with every activity that I bring forth in the world, and especially in my relationships. So I picked this PowerPoint image behind me because this is kind of how I felt this week. Trying to ride a unicycle on a tightrope, juggling, right? Anybody feel like this? Yeah. We're trying to stay balanced, trying to stay upright, trying to stay in the middle. We're on, we're on the cycle, and we got stuff coming at us right and left, and we're trying to keep all the balls in the air to avoid falling off the tightrope, to avoid having a little bicycle crash, right? To avoid the drama of all of that, so that we can be our best selves, you see. So that we can step forward in the essence that we want to bring to our experiences. Those of you in 12-step, this has been my practice this week. My son is always commenting on this, and I take it to heart. 12-step. Practice restraint of pen and tongue. Thank you. Practice restraint of pen and tongue. That's what Glenda was saying. Think before you speak. This idea, because what I know is different kinds of speech, different kind of actions, different kinds of responses. Guess what? They create different results, don't they? They create different results. So if I'm impeccable with my word, which is an invitation of Don Miguel Ruiz, the Four Agreements, if I'm impeccable with my word and with my actions, I have the chance of creating less harm for others and for myself. And by the way, when I'm talking about impeccable with my word, I'm referring to the work of Don Miguel Ruiz, and he says it starts with what you're saying to yourself. So when you're involved in a situation where all the stories are flying and the dramas start to bubble up underneath everything, and you're stepping back and you're beating yourself up, that's no different than if you're beating somebody else up. Do you hear what I'm saying? You got to start with yourself. That's being impeccable with your word. So if you're all of a sudden diminishing yourself, making yourself small within the experience, rather than just accepting it as it is, as part of the play of the experience, you're already causing more problems than you would necessarily have to cause. So why bother with all this? What's in it for me? Well, what I can tell you is, what's in it for me is that I get to bring my most divine expression of my humanity to my relationships. I get to bring my most divine self to everything that I encounter in the world. The field of energy that I bring wherever I go has a different vibration, like Glenda said. I'm not going to show up with a small version of myself. Do you ever have an interaction with somebody and when you get done you feel about this big? Yeah? It didn't go very well and you feel small? That's what I'm talking about. When I encounter people that I love and people that I care about, and I got to care about the world because we're all connected, aren't we? I better be bringing my best self, my most divine self, to that experience. Our author, what's her name? Judy DePrete. She says we've got to avoid, I love this, we've got to avoid shrinking into the smallest part of ourselves. Don't you like that? Don't shrink into the smallest part of yourself. Let your big self be. Beyond the stories, beyond the beliefs, beyond the opinions, beyond the right and wrong of whatever that thing is, like Glenda was saying. There is a field beyond all of that, and that's where we need to meet, so that we respond with love. And what I discovered this week in all of my interactions with people is that, you know what, there's a whole lot of stuff that's not my business. There's a whole lot of stuff I can't control. Matter of fact, most of stuff I can't control. There's a whole lot of stuff that I can't, change anybody's opinion. I don't even want to try. I don't even want to try. That's part of my practice. Oh well. I got to know the truth. My own story, right? I know my own story. But I don't have to convince anybody else of what their story should be or needs to be. So I like what Pema Children says. She says, and this is in a general sense, all wars, all hatred, all the ignorance in the world, all of those things come out of being so invested in our opinions. That's it. That's it. And I look back over my experience and I'm thinking, I got an opinion about that. Oh, I sure have an opinion about that. You know what? I really have an opinion about that deal. And now I might still have the thought, I'm working on that, but if I can stop it from coming out, I'm halfway there. If I can practice restraint of tongue and not let it fly out, I might have a chance of not creating more drama. How do we do this? So what's the practice? Well, first of all, it's a mindfulness. You got to pay attention. You got to be fully present. And I'm telling you, when somebody wants to hit you with their best shot, when they're bringing it on, it's hard to stay present. Because what happens? The first thing we want to do is put up the boundary, right? We want to be defended. So the first thing we have to do is pay attention and set an intention to be present with whatever that is. Breathe into it. Get prayed up. Take a breath and go, well, this is not going to be easy, but I can do this. I can get through this. We've got to be honest about with ourselves about what triggers us. We got to be honest about those places where I don't think I can handle this. And if we know that in advance, guess what? We can get a game plan going. I had that in one of my conversations. I had a game plan. And my game plan was, I'm going to be loving, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be compassionate, I'm not going to be defended, and I'm going to say, I'm sorry. No matter what it is, that's how I'm going to deal with it. That's how I'm going to deal with it. And you know what? It went well, I think. And I did not create drama. Yes. So we have to see where we're getting hooked. Those, Pema Children calls them those shimpa moments. We know what they feel like. We feel it here. It's like that, right before we know we're feeling it, there's a feeling before the feeling. You know what I'm saying? It's a shimpa moment where we're going, I'm getting triggered. And if we can just pay attention to that, so that before, it fires out, we've got the capacity to breathe, count to 10 and let it simmer. Let it simmer. Let it simmer. Be patient with it so that we don't have to instantly react to the experience. Because what I know in my life, and I try to remember this on an every moment basis, I can't take back much. Once it's gone out, once I've said it, once I've done it, boy, it is really hard to reel it in. Anybody else recognize that? It's very difficult. And then we got wreckage to clear up. So if we can keep it from happening in the first place, hallelujah. The Buddhist tradition has a process for handling conflicts within monasteries. And you know what they do? They have a terminology in Buddhist language, whatever that language is, for this. But it's called putting straw on mud. putting straw on mud. And what it means is that whatever the icky thing is, the drama, the problem, you do pretty much what I did, because I know this technique before I had my experience. You plan ahead to soften it, right? So that you can walk on the straw and you're not going to get your shoes all muddy in the situation. I hope I'm making some sense here. You apologize. You decide not to defend. You decide how you're to be loving. You decide to be kind. You put the straw on the mud because the mud's already a problem, right? It's already the messy drama. So you bring the straw to keep it at a different level. You have that power to do that. Pick your battles. Pick your battles. Now, I'm not saying that every battle has to be handled in this way. Some things, perhaps, you need to handle them in a different way. This is my technique, and it seems to work pretty well. Be true. If it's not true, kind, or necessary, maybe you shouldn't say it. If it's not right timing, sometimes we want to say something and it's just not the right time. Just not the right time. We catch people at a bad moment, or we're not feeling, or we're angry, something. It's that count to 10 thing, If it's not useful, if it's not helpful, if it's not compassionate, maybe we shouldn't say it right then. Maybe we can reframe it or deframe it and say it different in another way. So as my mama sitting in the audience today, and I will say what my mama always said. You'll recognize this, Mom. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Thank you for listening.